Hey everybody, it's Becca Heyman and this is First Line Frenzy Live. Today my special guest host is Elise Kova. She's amazing, right? She's written a lot of books that you've probably heard of. The Air Awaken series. Right now she is contributing to the Married to Magic series, which is amazing. She's a fantasy author with a lot going on and she's incredible. So I'm so excited for her to be here. I'm so excited for all of you to be here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to give about 5 minutes to get everybody here and settled and started. I'm going to share with you something that I bought myself that arrived yesterday that I'm so excited about. These are my brand new Lisa Frank composition notebooks. They're the real genuine article. I have 3 of them, of course. I have the unicorn. Everybody loves the unicorn. I always went for the dolphins when I was back to school shopping in the 90s. Retrospectively, it was the right choice. Oh, here's Elise. I'm going to have her come on, and then, of course, I'll continue to regale you with stories about my favorite office. The last one might be the best one. I don't know. What do you think? I'm kind of team Big Cat now. Big Cat Cub.
Oh God, I'm so close. Hi.
It happens to me all the time. I'm always like, hey, everybody, it's time for First Line Frenzy. And then I have to pick a screenshot for like my feed, and it's always that. I'm like, okay, great. Hi.
Hi.
It's so nice to see you. Your hair got really long.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just the illusion of being like this close.
Yeah. Well,
I got it cut not too long ago, and per usual, it just does whatever it wants.
I'm on the curly girl journey now, so like we don't know what's happening up there. But
yeah.
It's a good curl day. I was just showing everybody my new notebooks. Are you jealous?
I am so jealous.
I know. My son was like, "Hey, mom, can I have one of those?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. They're not for you. Don't touch them." So, no, this is the only reason I go on eBay is to find like pseudo vintage Lisa Frank stationery. There are worse reasons. There are worse reasons to go on eBay.
Exactly.
So what's up? How you doing? I think we haven't talked in a while. Should we tell everybody about our relationship so that they understand our banter?
I don't know. Do we want the world to know? Are we going to be public?
Some of them have figured it out. But remember when we were like Instagram a fish? Yeah, should we be into? So I was trying to remember the first time I edited for you.
It was Loom. It was the Alchemist.
I know it was Loom. Of course, it was the Alchemist of Loom. And I distinctly remember taking a call from you in the parking lot of my gym. And so it had to be when my son was in preschool and before I had my daughter. So it's got to be like at least 6 years ago. 5, 6 years ago?
5, 6 years ago, yeah. Because I was working on, because Loom came out early, if memory serves, it was early 17. Which means it had to have been sometime in 16.
Wow. So he was, really? When was he born? Yeah, he was 3. Okay, that makes total sense with my timeline. I've lost a lot of time. I don't know. Like, I can't be held really responsible for my...
It's the past 2 years. Nothing...
Yeah, no. We've all been living in a black hole. Okay, So the fun anecdote that I will tell everybody, it's going to drive them absolutely batshit because you lived the dream and then no one else has since. So this woman reaches out to me and she's like, hey, I'm an author. I kind of wrote the series called Air Awakens, but now I'm working on something new and I was wondering if you're available for editing. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I'm reading the reviews for Air Awakens and I'm like, all right, okay, there's something here. So we set up our agreement and she sends me this draft and I'm reading the draft and I'm like, oh shit, I have nothing to say. Literally nothing to say about this perfect book.
I came out swinging.
You came out swinging so hard. And I panicked, right? Like I panicked because my job is to be like, send me your best and I shall interrogate, And like since then, I totally have. We have been on some journeys together. But that first book.
All of them good in the end.
All of them good, all of them productive.
Yes.
But that first book, I was like, oh my God, am I unfit? Like I really questioned it. But then I was like, no, this is just an extraordinary draft. And we moved right to line edits because I was like, well, this is perfect. So XOXO, let's just move to line. And we did. And that was like the beginning of our glorious work marriage.
And it's just been, some books have, I don't think any have quite achieved that, but some books have been pretty strong.
Some books have gotten very close, but like honestly, I think that's happened. It's you and I think one other manuscript I've ever read, and I've been doing this for close to 14 years at this point. I think again, my relationship to time is very fluid, but I'm pretty sure it's been a long time that I've been doing this, and that will always just be outstanding in my mind. It's like my first introduction to you was like, well, shit, this is perfect, and
then later books were like, what happened? Where did that go?
It was like I don't know. Well, I'm gonna force you to talk later about deep flow and about your writing process because in like a month ago, I kind of challenged my, newsletter friends to commit to finishing a creative project by June 1st.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm doing it and they're doing it and a lot of people are doing it, which is really nice. It's like a totally unhinged challenge for which I have done no additional work or organization. But I was just like, if you want to do this, I'm doing it. Let's do it separately together. So I know people want to hear from you about like how you achieve such great heights, from your desk chair.
Well, it helps when you have someone who helps push you there.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's me. She's talking about me. Yeah, so we're going to look at lines today. We're going to start the first line frenzy, and then we're going to pause in the middle to chat about the books you've got happening now/soon. The important thing that I always forget to tell everybody who guests here is that you have to make sure to note down your favorite line. They're all numbered because the winner, our favorite line of the day, the author of that line will get one of your books. I might just let them choose which one they want because there's frankly so many. But show us the pretty one. Go do it.
This one?
Yep.
I know you love this one.
I love that cover. Is this the same artist who always does your covers?
So I have a different artist for every series usually. I like to have, all my covers are illustrated and they all are, character focused.
Yeah.
I like bringing in a different illustrator because I love bringing in different artistic voices to bring my covers to life and have each series feel a little different.
Well, yeah, the Loom covers are so different from the Married to Magic covers or the Air Awakens universe covers. But I really felt, is it the same artist between 1 and 2, between Elf and
Yep.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
The light, I think it's the light. I'm a sucker for like a beautifully lit couple in a clinch.
Well, I know, I hope my illustrator doesn't mind if I share this, if I'm remembering correctly, but I think she said that she actually took some courses and did some studying between the two covers, and she was very excited to bring some of what she had recently learned to the next cover we worked on together. And she's working on the 3rd book right now, and I'm very excited.
Well, she's doing a great job. The first cover is obviously great. I love a character focused illustration. You've always had great taste about the covers of your books. But this one spoke to me. Hold it up so everybody can see it. Look how pretty it is. Look at the light behind him. Oh my God. It's just gorgeous. Yes. Oh my gosh. I just love it. It just speaks to me. They're all great. That one just speaks loudest to me right now. So whatever book our winner would like of yours, yes, I would be happy to send them because they're spoiled for choice because you're such a productive writer. So I'm gonna flip my camera and I'll be in radio host mode. So I will be here just commenting as always. But we're looking for, just like your instincts. I'll handle all the boring stuff, all the grammar, but just like your gut reaction.
I'm very nervous about this.
Everyone's nervous. There's no need to fret, my friend. Okay. It's a very positive, we're very positive. It's a community learning project. So we're just here to be educated. But of course, sometimes it's edutainment, right? Is that a word that we're okay with? It's like,
yeah, I'm good with that.
What's that corporate word? Synthesis? I don't know, synthesis. Synergy.
Well, reaching all the way back to my corporate days for those buzzwords.
Yeah, I never had corporate days. The closest I got was like a window wall installation company outside of New York City. That was like a 3-man operation. Okay, I'm going into radio mode.
Okay.
All right. Here's Jamie Fraser is right over there next to my husband. Hold on. I'm going to make this closer. So just give me a second to get organized. We're very high tech here.
I'm here for the ride.
Just going to pull it closer. I have the technical skill of a much younger woman. Let's like a 3-year-old. All right. Like a toddler. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so you can see this, right? You've got,
Yeah, I can see
you've
it, no
got good
problem.
eyes in that head. All right. All right, I'll read to you. And I kind of stacked the deck with some fantasy because, like, duh, you know. So this first one is YA fantasy. I actually think this must have come from one of your followers because this was toward the bottom of my list. I have like a Google Doc with like 700 lines in it. So I pick and choose from all over the place. Okay, anyway. Sneaking out of castles is always easier than sneaking into them.
So my gut with this is I'm definitely intrigued because I would think it would be almost the like other way. I guess you've already created a path, so you can just go back. But then I'm like, okay, so nothing goes wrong along the way. Like, who are you? Who is this person that is like, all right, I can get in no problem and I can get out no problem. Begs the question of why they're sneaking into castles. Definitely get a little bit of a sense of place and time. I do like it. It makes me want to know why they're sneaking into castles, though.
Yes. So I guess then the question is, does this for you, does it pass the so what's next test, which is a sort of rubric I always use for first line frenzy? Like, are you like, okay, I don't care, and the questions have led me to a dead end, or are the questions opening you up to explore what's happening? Or
I definitely feel open up with this one. My only critique, I guess, or feedback is I really like character focused lines that really ground you in the character foremost, because I usually think that you have to make a reader care about the character before anything else.
We agree with you.
I would almost love if there was a way, now granted it might get wordy or need a bunch of reworking, but a way to ground this in the character somehow a little bit more. Love the sentiment. I think it's a great place to start, but I would definitely play around with a couple iterations.
I agree. I think, you know, we look for character, we look for conflict in line one. And I think while this is certainly a little, it's very pithy and I can see why it appeals as a first line for this author, I would say, like, don't be general when you could be specific. Sneaking out of Castle Black is proving far more challenging than sneaking in as I blank, or, you know, something like that, or even put us into the middle of action, right? Like, I've been trapped, you know, I've been huddled into like a corner of somewhere for 6 hours, and yet, like, I don't know. I think you can get very specific here, and that level of specificity will save you from yourself.
Yeah,
in this regard.
Highlight a skill of the character. Like, sneaking out of castles is always easier than sneaking into them when all the guards are drugged and asleep.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, beautiful.
And then you kind of are like, okay, this person has like access and maybe like poison knowledge or something.
Right. Well, also maybe read the beginning of The Alchemist of Loom, the first book, because she's, as I recall, right, she's like breaking in somewhere right at the
beginning. I'm gonna paraphrase, but the first line of that one I think is, Ariana had a bomb, a magic winch box, and 2 daggers. All she waited for now was darkness.
Yes. Oh, I love that line. I should have grabbed my coffee before I sat down, but I didn't. That ship has sailed. I agree. So we want specificity, even when there's sort of an interesting moment happening. I'm going to move this over. Again, very high tech. So this is adult thriller, suspense. Brian is sitting on the stoop, his legs stretched out like he's enjoying a summer day, only he's in his uniform, so it's not a social call.
My first reaction to this is I'm not sure if this is like a third omniscient narrator and Brian is our main character, or if this is someone observing Brian on
observing
the
him
narrating.
Yeah, I agree. So, it's very distant.
Yeah, I would definitely want
too
clarity.
Much distance. Yeah, we need to, I think, you know, you need to know who your narrator is and how close they stand to the action, even if they're not a character. And so this is very observational, and it's there. I like the simmering conflict, like Brian is in his uniform, so it's not a social call. I like that. And in some ways that is the first line I'm looking for.
Yeah. And I also
Brian,
think too, what type of uniform maybe, because it doesn't give me a sense of, I mean, stoop is more modern language, but it doesn't give me a solid sense of place or time, which again, the cover and the blurb and whatnot would help when you're picking up this book. But I really would love maybe like his police uniform, his army uniform? Like what, maybe a
Yeah,
little bit
my
more.
gut says police, right? Because it's a thriller, but
Yeah.
it could be, I don't know. Like there could definitely be more specificity there. I think what intrigues me about this is the idea that whoever is narrating knows Brian as two different people, right?
Yeah.
The official uniform wearing person and the social person. And I think that's really interesting. I just finished reading Kennedy Ryan's Grip, and it's great. Kennedy Ryan is like the queen of slow burn, and her characters are so very human, and it's a great contemporary romance. And a side character is who grew up in Compton, becomes a cop, and so he rides the line between this community that fears the police, and he's trying to bridge this divide. And so it's so interesting the way she writes this character who has a foot in both worlds. And I think that's what this reminded me of. Obviously, it's fresh in my mind. I just read it this week, but get into it more. I mean, that's such an intimate, there's such intimate knowledge of this person on different levels. And I want to feel more of that intimacy here.
Right.
Though I am intrigued by this. Like, it's very close. It's just not quite there. That's my 2 cents.
Agreed.
Adult sci-fi. Sweat trickled down Tenn's back, but he couldn't say whether it was from the hot sun or the 48 monks in front of him trying to move a boulder using nothing but sound.
I like this. I like this a lot. I mean,
yeah, I do too, actually. Yeah.
I
think it's really funny.
It begs the question of like, why? I mean, granted, you know, why is he sweating if it is from the monks? Like, is he afraid of them? Is he also exerting some kind of magic or force or energy or something onto this boulder? Is he just sweating in sympathy at their exertion or whatnot? But I do love those contrasty moments that you see in this sentence where you take something normal, sweat trickling down your back, and you give a very logical reason that anyone could relate to, but then you give that illogical reason that you would only find in a fantasy or a sci-fi or something.
Right. It's so world specific. But I will say this might be light sci-fi, because frankly, 48 monks trying to move a boulder with sound is maybe something that happens today. I mean, that doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility. You know?
True.
Like, I don't know a ton of monks, but I do have a foot in the yoga world, and like people are always doing weird stuff. I just read an interview with Megan Fox about like drinking her fiance's blood. So like, you don't know. We don't know what's happening. She says it's for ritual purposes only, but either way, I think it's fair to say that this could be the ordinary world that is about to open into the extraordinary world. And what would actually thrill me is if this chanting opens some kind of portal that then pulls us into the sci-fi world. But now I'm, of course, writing this book for this author, but I think this is really well executed. I agree with you that the juxtaposition between the mundane and the extraordinary is very potent here, and a little funny, and has a great tone. It's voicey. I'm into it. I'm feeling it. Yeah, I feel this. All right. Moving right along. This is an adult general commercial. Later, I told the Mumbai police sergeant I didn't mean to swing my camera bag at a 9-year-old boy and dislocate his elbow, but if I have to be honest, I probably did.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that spelling error was probably just a typo, but there is that. This is one of those like annoyingly just like vowel heavy words. It's like a bad Wordle, you know, like thank God the Wordle can't do this to us. Lauren, who's a frequent flyer on First Line Frenzy, says she loves this. And I have to say, what I find most attractive about it is how despicable this person is.
Yeah. Like, and I was going to say, like, my initial reaction is I don't know how I feel about the later as an opener. Part of me likes it because it's different, and it, you know, implies like we are jumping right into the story, which is what you want to do. But I almost wonder if it would be stronger if you started just with I, and that way it puts you immediately in that character's shoes and immediately in that second. I mean, I think anytime that you start with like any kind of potential violence toward a child or an innocent is a bold choice, let's say.
It's a bold line. I mean, it's very bold. And immediately I think there's two really interesting things going on here, which is that the narrator, first of all, I agree with you about later. I think there's no reason for it. Readers will always assume chronology unless otherwise stated. And so there's no reason to start with this sort of lame-o adverb, just get rid of it. So what I like about this is that the character is owning their unreliability. They're saying, I lied to the police, but I'm telling you the truth. And it's this.
I love
this,
a good unreliable narrator.
Me too. It's this little piece here. But if I have to be honest, right? So immediately it's saying, whatever this is, whether it's a confession or whether it's just a narration, we are supposedly getting the truth. But I love that we don't know for sure. Obviously, this person is a pestilence, right? Like, who would purposely dislocate a child's elbow, even if something nefarious was going on. It's obviously like an extreme reaction to whatever's happening. It's so gross. I have to keep reading. I really want to know what happens next.
Yeah, and I definitely think it is something that could be like you get more context and you're like, oh, because like I didn't want to do it, but I had to because it got him out of a bad situation where he would have been much more hurt than that. Like, still bad, but
right.
Maybe
not. To be honest with you, I think that is like wishful thinking here. I think this is just a really awful person, but in the best possible way. So this is a front runner for me. Who would have thought? Just bring on the violence to children. Please don't quote me on that. Okay. An adult fantasy. The cavern's shadows clung to Verve, binding her in darkness and squeezing her heart like a vice.
I want more context. It's a very pretty sentence, but I feel like this is a
pretty.
Good, like, second or third sentence. Like, I like having it up front, but I don't know anything about the cavern. I don't know anything about why she's afraid or her heart is being squeezed. Like, I want more of where this is and where these emotions are coming from.
I agree. I think this is a very sort of wide lens shot, but at the same time, we're getting the intimacy of squeezing her heart like a vice. And so one of the challenges there is that you have to decide where the POV is coming from, right? Are we watching the shadows sort of cling, or are we inside Verve next to her heart? And I know it seems silly to say, well, why not both? But it can't be both, right? We are either inside or outside. So she either feels the shadows squeezing and her heart, she either feels the shadows clinging and her heart squeezing, or we are outside of her body and we see the shadows cling and we see the darkness. But it can't be both. And I think this feels like an everything all at once sentence. And what I need this author to do is slow down a little bit and take a breath. I want to pause to say that Cosmic Smog has just said, love your books, Elise. Can't wait for the Vampire Lord book. I have read the Vampire Lord book and it is amazing. So you all have so much to look forward to. I am obsessed with the Married to Magic series. I would say Loom will always hold a special place in my heart because it was our first like marriage. And it's just, I don't know, people don't always understand like how intimate the editor author relationship is, but ours is like, we sign our emails work wife, like it just, that will always hold a special place in my heart. But I have to say, I'm having an absolute blast with the Married to Magic series. And I also eagerly await the next one. I can't remember. You're in my calendar for some time. Oh, look, I opened to the page in July. You owe me a manuscript in July.
I do
right now. You
yeah,
better get it to me on time too, because I'm like desperate for it. It's like my treat, my little treat.
I am gonna have stuff ready for you, I promise, because I'm not delaying the process at all.
No, she's very good, my friends. She gets her deadlines. She's lovely to work with. Okay, anyway. So we're just gonna take the fangirling down a notch and come to our next line. That's fine. Listen, adult romance. Also appropriate, right? The Married to Magic series is very romantic. I don't know if everyone watching has read it yet, but you should. Josephine watched as her wedding ring sparkled beneath the soft glow of the lamplight and couldn't help wondering whether it had become nothing but an accessory now. It takes a turn, doesn't it?
Yeah, because you have that like sparkle, that brightness, that like things that you associate with good feelings and optimism and happiness, and
then boom.
Yeah. So one thing, and this is just sticking out to me because it's one of those things that I've been actively trying to work on in my own writing, and so I'm hyper focused on it right now. The Josephine watch, I would almost think it would be stronger if you started with Josephine's wedding ring sparkled beneath, because if we're in her head watch, like in her mind and it's her perspective, I always see those as just kind of like filler words: watched, looked, seen, heard, that sort of thing.
As you know, I have a vendetta against filtering language. Filtering language is what I call language that draws attention to the mundane use of the five senses: looked, heard, watched, right? Things like that. When your character experiences something, we will assume it comes to them through the regular channels. We don't think she nods her arm yes, right? Like, but nodding her head yes is like, ugh, it just makes me want to just gouge out my eyes. So this is the same thing. If the wedding ring sparkles beneath the soft glow of the lamplight, we know Josephine is there. We know if she's observing that sparkle, it's with her eyeballs, and her eyeballs watch things. There is no need to explicitly state this.
And I will say, in contrast, though, if the author of this wanted to, if for some reason Josephine is obsessing about her wedding ring right now, which it sounds like she sort of is, and that is implied, but like there could be a Josephine was unable to tear her eyes away from her wedding ring sparkle, or some kind of rework in that way.
But that's no longer mundane, right? Yeah. That's no longer the typical use of eyeballs to take in visual information, right? That's an obsessive thought. That's something else. And maybe we might even see that instead of hearing about it. We might see it in her constantly spinning it, or maybe she polishes it all the time, or she keeps doing something, taking an action. But I agree with you. That pulls this out of the mundane. Can I share a pet peeve of mine?
Yeah.
Carrie Bradshaw ruined this for everybody. Everybody needs to stop. I couldn't help but wonder if blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, everyone. It until Sex and the City is firmly out of our consciousness and they stop trying to reboot it, you have to stop doing this.
I'm probably guilty of this several times.
So am I, though. No, so am I. It's part of our cultural consciousness. And truly, like, it's in there. I catch myself doing it all the time, along with using the words just and actually, which, like, I am so irritating about that shit. I can't stop. But my point is, she couldn't help but wonder, okay, so she's thinking about it a lot. But like saying the wedding ring sparkled beneath the soft glow of the lamplight, as her, I would even say maybe her wedding ring sparkled beneath the soft glow of the lamplight, as Josephine wondered again if it had become nothing but an accessory.
Or obsessed over, bringing that in, like it's obviously constantly on her mind.
Yeah, I agree. So this is a great idea. This is the right moment to begin, but the execution could use some finesse.
And that is one thing that and I'm sure you've given this advice multiple times, but like one of the things that I always do is, especially with my first lines, when I write them, I will then rewrite them 2 or 3 times, because I'm a firm believer of usually the first thing that you put down is not the best one. You find the best one 3 or 4 tries in.
Yes, you're 100% right. Even look, I am obviously first line queen. I am working on a manuscript now, and I was rereading, after some time away from the manuscript, and ended up moving my second line first, because I realized that my first line would not have passed muster with myself. And I was like, well, you raging hypocrite, it's time to change this, and it's a good line, and it's a necessary line, and it's an important line to be in the first paragraph, but it definitely wasn't the first line. And so it's okay to just take a second look at even your first page and then say, okay, well, where actually is my first line, honey? How much of this was throat clearing, and how much of it is intentional storytelling? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And especially if you're a pantser.
Yeah, don't even start me. Don't. Y'all need a one pager. Don't even come at me without a one pager. Okay. This is adult sci-fi. Back to sci-fi. I don't know how I'm supposed to say this. Fepeci. C's are very tricky. Like they could mean many things. And then there's another one that's a hard C at the end. So
Remote?
But like, oh, well, that's kind of you adding like a little Yiddish. There's nothing. I don't know. I'm going to say Fepechi Remoke. All right.
Yeah,
And if that was
that.
wrong, then like get an easier to pronounce name. Fepechi Remoke grimaced as his knees ground against the pale, smooth stones of the solar lit pathway that wound its way through the Artista Gardens.
So for me, I almost wonder if there's too much setting here.
It's so funny. I was about to highlight all of it so that we could count it and then get a percentage because I'm a nerd. So look at all this. This is all setting, my friends. All of it. That's
yeah,
like, and visually, it's 2/3.
I almost look at this as like, again, right idea, but I would split this out into the entire paragraph. So take this sentence and make it a full paragraph, figure out what your best first line is, but keep all of this information potentially up front, but not all in the same sentence.
Mm-hmm. We don't need everything all at once. We can definitely slow down. This for sure is just too much info. And who cares that the stones are pale and smooth? Who cares that it's solar lit? I'm sorry. Like, I don't give a shit. This person, if his knees are grinding against the ground, regardless of what the ground is made of, it seems like this is a moment of action and potentially aggression, right?
Well, and
but instead we're like talking about the weather.
And that's what I want more of. I want more of, is he being forced to kneel? And if so, I want something like, he had knelt before the king. I'm immediately going into fantasy terms, but like,
yeah,
he had knelt before the king many times, but this was the first time he was forced to his knees or something like that. Like, or is he fighting?
You should write that down. That's lovely.
Is he tripping? Like,
is he carrying something very heavy? Is he staggering under the weight of several pies? We don't know. We don't know what's going on here, right? So all we have is like this really sort of doorstop of a name, right? You heard me. I couldn't even get past it without really thinking about it. And then we have a facial expression and a body position, and then the rest of it is setting. But what we need in a first line is a character to connect to and a conflict to wonder about. And yeah, that's here, but it's being crowded out by too much setting information.
Yeah.
So I would knock that.
And the setting sounds cool for the record. Like, again,
yeah,
don't get rid of it. Just rework it.
Just not right here. Yeah. 100%. Okay. Moving right along. After this one, we're going to stop and talk a little bit, just for a few minutes, about just all your excellent things. So this is another. Oh my God, more coffee. This is another adult thriller suspense. I never make mistakes live. An eye for an eye, that's what I want, she said, with a voice honeyed with the sort of calm only found in the eye of a hurricane. It's rare to see 3 eyes in a single sentence.
I didn't even notice that, but yeah, I will say though, as a native born Floridian, I immediately vibe with this because I'm like, I know what the eye of a hurricane is like. I have been outside in the eye of a hurricane.
Yeah. I love this part. I like this. Okay. So let's just say, number one, we're opening with a dialogue that relies on a cliche. So that is 0 points in my book. I really like the descriptive instincts here, but to say a voice is honeyed with something is already descriptive, and then you're stacking another description on top of it. So really, I'm in overload here. A voice honeyed, like already honeyed, is smooth and sweet and golden.
Yeah.
It is already a loaded descriptive term. So to say honeyed with the sort of calm only found in the eye of a hurricane, it's too much. There's no honey in the eye of a hurricane. That's not, maybe a voice,
I think if you just completely remove honey.
Calm. Yeah. So it's one or the other, not both. And again, eyes, more eyes. Make some choices here.
I also think too, like to your point of choosing one or the other, to me, they speak different things. Where if you say with a voice honeyed with calm, or to me, that's someone who's like, I'm trying to be really sweet right now.
Yes.
And I'm forcing myself to play really nicely, but I don't want to. Whereas if you say a voice with the sort of calm only found in the eye of a hurricane, to me, that's much more threatening and ominous and impending doom. They're two different feelings.
You're very good at that honeyed voice. That's concerning. You're maybe a little too good at that. But I agree. It's the menace of the sort of calm only found in the eye of a hurricane is very attractive to me. And in terms of a turn of phrase, that is where the sentence shines. The dialogue I want rewritten. The honeyed I want eliminated. Where this shines is this last phrase. And so I see this kind of often, right, where you can tell someone had they like fell in love with a phrase and then tried to make that fit into a larger puzzle. But this feels like three different puzzles that are all trying to like crash onto the same board. So if this is the moment, right, if the sense of this voice is what's important here, get us closer, give us character, give us conflict, keep this incredibly rich description. It's very evocative, but don't crowd it out with other stuff. And like also only one eye. That's it. And if the eye is the eye of the hurricane, then find a different cliche, or better yet, don't. Why not?
I was gonna
all
say,
I want is revenge.
With the dialogue, like I think sometimes simple, especially at the start, can be even more powerful than any kind of metaphor or whatnot. Like if you just open up with, "I want blood," she said, like or like I want him dead or something. Right. Like it's super simple.
You can keep it simple because the magic here isn't about the dialogue. It's about the voice delivering the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now I will also say my diehard first line frenzies know that we don't love dialogue in an opening line. Dialogue is always already inherently without context. And so you are giving over precious first line real estate to a line, to words that will always need explanation. And that is a barrier to entry for readers. So I would prefer the experience of this voice, perhaps, like, Jamie's voice held the sort of calm only found in the eye of a hurricane when she explained, her plan for revenge, or
at a first line that creates that setting before this. So it's a first line new paragraph with something like,
yes,
she stared down the judge with, without fear. Boom.
Yeah. Right. And so, I feel that too. You love a short first paragraph and then a long. We've talked about this a lot.
I've gotten better.
Like, you have, but I can't remember which manuscript you delivered. And I was like, wow, every damn chapter, it's a short line and then many long lines. Like, it was just like, it was hilarious. It was just a habit that you fell into because it is really effective.
Yeah.
Right? But it was everyone. And there was a rhythm to the start of your chapters that was like becoming a little bit too much like a techno thump instead of a melody, and we had to fix that.
Yeah. It's something I consciously keep an eye out for in the back of my head, where it's like, whenever I do it, I always go and scroll back and I'm like, okay, how long has it been since I've done this? Am I allowed? Do I want it here? I give myself, I'm like, okay, you can do this maybe like 10% of the manuscript. Choose wisely.
Yes, right. I'm coming back. Don't be alarmed. Okay. So we're going to talk for a few minutes about you and about your work and about your writing process. And then we're going to get back to our remaining, we have 4 more lines to go. So, okay. Friends who are watching, stick around because we won't be long and you should listen to this anyway. So I obviously, in my timeline of your work is all over the place because I read it early. So I never know what's out and what's next. So tell us everything. A couple of people have said they're waiting for Vampire Lord. So when does that come out?
So that comes out August 18th. So my last release was in March, and that was A Hunt of Shadows, the second book in A Trial of Sorcerers.
Love that cover too. That's a great cover. I love a blue. Like I'm just a sucker for blue tones, and I love that cover. Very pretty.
I always say this though about every new cover. I'm like, it's one of my favorites. And then the next one comes around. I'm like, it's one of my favorites.
Also this one. Yeah. That's fine. They're like my daughter. We always ask her like who her best friend at preschool is. And she's like, well, all of Dem's. And like, fine, whatever. Yeah, we're here for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's out now. And Trial, wait, you said Hunt of Shadows.
Hunt of Shadows. So the third book of Trial will be out end of February next year.
Okay, so we have a little while to wait on that. But so for people who know you from Air Awakens, it takes place in the same universe, but but like a generation later, pretty much.
Basically, yeah. And I've tried to write.
No, it's 2 generations later.
Yeah, it's like a generation and a half.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Because she's already grown, and I don't want to give away any spoilers. You know, I got to keep my mouth shut. But like, it's a generation and a half after the Air Awaken series, and it's really great, and it's got a great central mystery. Like, you really knocked that out of the park. Like, it's got great world building, which is like one of your hallmarks, of course. And now Married to Magic. When does Vampire Lord come out?
So Vampire Lord is August 18th, and then the next book in Married to Magic after that is a year later. So it'll be August of 23.
That's gonna hurt all of us. But Married to Magic is great because did I like force you into reading Tessa, your first Tessa Dare book?
Yes, that was you.
I did.
You were the good influence.
I'm a great influence. If you need more historical romance in your life, and frankly, who doesn't, I'm your girl. And so
I attest to this. Everyone, like, if you ever need a historical romance rec, just like comment.
Just anything you need. So it basically, Married to Magic emerged out of your love for world building and wanting to your like incredible capacity for character development, but wanting to write romance at the same time. And so it's like the most beautiful marriage of these genres, right? So we're getting like all of these all of the fantasy, but then all the romance tropes in like one gorgeous package.
I also just wanted to write something that was like easy, in the sense of easy to read. like that.
It's nothing. Just basically they write themselves.
Trust me, after rewriting the first 30,000 words of Vampire Lord over like 5 times, they definitely are not easy to write. But I think about, you know, when I wrote Air Awakens, I was like, I just want to make choices that make it easy for people to jump into this world. There's not a huge barrier to entry. There's not like, I'm going to throw 17,000 technical terms at you at the gate and you have to synthesize what they mean, a la Loom. And so I was like, I just want to write a book where it's like, here's a handsome elf king. Here's a pretty nice herbalist. And guess what? They have to get married and they live happily ever after at the end. And I'm just going to tell everyone up front, all of these books are happily ever after. Like they all have an
AGA. They're pretty low. They're low angst.
Yeah.
I would say they're low angst. I would say if all of them, Vampire Lord is probably the highest angst, but even then the angst level is not like, and it's not the frustrating kind of angst where you're like, oh my God, just have a conversation and this will be over. It's really great. It's just like, it's good, wholesome, slightly smutty, magical content. It's like just the right amount of wholesome, but with also the right amount of like sexy times.
And that's the balance I've tried to strike with them. Is like just like, you know, you're gonna walk away feeling good and smiling. They might not be groundbreaking books, and that's okay with me. I'm just here to help you have a good time for an afternoon.
They're a great time. They're such a great time. And like, I think they're also just like a great introduction to your writing style and your world building. And it's lovely. I have enjoyed editing them so much because it really is a treat for me to like sit down with my Remarkable and just like draw and doodle and be like, is this what he looks like? And like draw hearts around like certain paragraphs, which is the kind of editor I have become after the pandemic. I'm totally unhinged. So
we all are. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. We're all here together. So anything else that we need to know about, like right now, before we go back to our last few lines? And
so I do have some other stuff that's happening. I'll just like give a quick rundown.
Hype it. Toot.
I'm gonna do a re-release of my Golden Guard trilogy, just because I updated Air Awakens for the 5-year anniversary, and the Golden Guard trilogy is kind of there, and I never updated that. So it's gonna get pretty under jacket designs finally. It's gonna have some new artwork inside. It'll be the same story though, so I don't want people to feel like, oh, I have to go buy this new
book. I was gonna say I have not been consulted about this, and I love
no, it's just like repackaged in nicer packaging. So that's gonna happen. Air Awakens 2nd edition audiobooks are coming out soon. And then in October, I am actually re-releasing the Loom Saga because my rights reverted from the publisher. So similarly, like the Golden Guard trilogy, it's going to be repackaged, do same story, same everything as far as content, but they are going to have new covers, which I am excited and nervous for, because I do love the originals, but
I do like the originals. But I'm sure
felt
whatever you have next is going to be amazing also.
it's very different from all of my other series, and I'm like very excited but also a little nervous, but it's pretty low pressure because I'm like, I don't know, it's already been published, so we'll see what happens.
I love that series. I feel like I have so many memories of reading the first drafts, you know, not just of Loom, but of the subsequent books, and like the character development, and like the magic is so pretty and like
But also
different, but also super bloody. It is truly unlike anything else you've written. I think because most of the other things fall under the Air Awakens umbrella, and so it's a specific aesthetic and a specific magic system. And Loom is just you like flexing your muscles in a different way, and it's great. I love it. I don't know.
That series will always hold a special place in my heart.
It's also very STEMinist. You were ahead of your time, because these are lady scientists doing lady scientist shit in a world where science is also magic and also dangerous. And you know, it's awesome. And I love that. I think it was in many ways ahead of its time, and I just hope people crush on it as hard as they do the other stuff, because it's a great love story. It's a great friendship story. I absolutely love that central female friendship that like is truly the steady beating heart of the series, and it all speaks. I love it.
I love that series, and again, I hope that the new cover like attracts people who might not have given it a chance before to give it a chance now. That's my goal.
Well, we are gonna you just let me know when it comes out, and you can come in instead. We can look at 2 lines, and then you can just like we can ogle your covers for an hour together.
I'll just be a reading of me like reading the first chapter. Like an audiobook is out,
but it's not the same. You know what? Please, all these folks would be rabid for that. They would love that. We're gonna get you on IG Live a lot more often. Okay, I'm gonna flip back around, and we're gonna do the last 4 lines, and then we're gonna pick a fave.
Okay.
And then if we have a few minutes left, I want to know what you're reading. You know, I gotta know. So, okay, I'm turning back around. Don't be alarmed. Okay. Yep, there's a wall. It's not alarming. I don't know why I thought you would be alarmed. Okay. I think your risk tolerance is higher than my blank white wall. Okay, everything's fine. Ooh, an adult romance. I love this one. Wanted, female human to eat my flesh.
I love it. I love it.
It's perfect. Gold
I
star
love
again.
everything about it.
So I should mention to people who've not come to First Line Frenzy before that there's no genre, like subgenre delineation on my form, because honestly, I knew I would miss some, and then I was like, I just don't want to open the Pandora's box if I can't close it. So it's just, it could be paranormal romance, it could be we don't know what this is. There's so many subgenres in romance that I couldn't list them all.
But I want to know what this is.
Oh, I want to know. I mean, a part of me hopes it's like a straight contemporary, and this is just like, boom, we're putting it out there.
Right.
Maybe it's about, who's that actor who was like eating people? Andy? Is that, I don't know. I don't actually have a good pop culture reference, but I know there was a big kerfuffle about somebody, you know, eating the flesh of their lovers. Everyone was like, wait, this was recently.
I don't follow like hardly anything. People will be like, this super famous actor, and I'll be like, who?
Oh, Lauren got it. Oh, Lauren, you're always so fast to like, you know, Lauren is often here, and she always covers my blind spots. Armie Hammer. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like spread tales, because who knows what's true and what's not, but it was a really wild story to read about. Anyway, we love this. This gets a gold star from me. It's perfect exactly
Gold
as it
star.
is.
Yeah,
Gold
wouldn't
star.
change a thing.
No, wouldn't change a thing.
Ready
right,
for the first chapter.
Ready for it all. A YA fantasy. Here we are again. Elodie had traveled all of Paris without ever seeing it. Poor Elodie. Doesn't feel like YA fantasy, does it?
It doesn't. Like, and
it feels like middle grade. It feels like middle grade contemporary to me.
Well, as you said, there's no subgenre, so this could be like an urban fantasy or like a portal fantasy.
That's true.
I'm intrigued to know what this means, but I almost wish I had a little bit more context here.
It's quite cliched, actually. Like, this is not a new idea. Like, people have been sort of saying this for forever. I think there's a lot of room for context. Is it because she's on a field trip or because like her dad is so concerned about the timetable for getting to like every landmark that they never actually get to take it in. Like there's so much more that
or
could
is she
be
just
here.
blind? Like, no, I'm serious. Like a disabled lead character. Like, I don't know.
No. The reason I'm laughing is because it's such an obvious and wonderful question to ask, and it did not occur to me. Yeah, is she just actually blind? We don't know. So this is a situation where we're not really passing the what's next test. Instead, we're getting hung up on logistics. So the questions we have are not questions that lead to an interrogation of narrative. They're questions that lead to a certain amount of sort of mistrust or a lack of trust between your reader and the author.
You know what I will say though, is that this could potentially be a good start to writing your blurb/query letter. Because I could see this being incorporated in there, still probably edited a bit, but incorporated in there in some way.
And like, so this could also just be the first part of a longer sentence. Elodie had traveled all of Paris without ever seeing it. And then show us what she sees that she can't believe. Like, I love the motif of sight and vision, especially if it is a portal or urban fantasy. So I would love to know if this leads to her not trusting what she is now seeing, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe there were vampires all over Paris and she had just missed them before now, right? So even that, I think, is a more interesting start.
Or maybe it's like she traveled all over Paris without ever seeing it, and now she couldn't wash the stink of the catacombs off her clothes.
Oh yeah, even that's better. I agree. So this is like a start but no finish. Ultimately, I think that period should be a comma. I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. Onward. Did I say we had 4 left? We probably have a few more though. YA contemporary, Davina shoveled a handful of Jamaican banana chips into her mouth, made a mental note to pay for it later, and kept an eye out for her mother's return to the shop. It's a little bit of a fact cake, but I like it.
I was going to say, like, it is sort of like that, you know, this, but I like it. Like, it has, like, a nice little rhythm to it for contemporary and realistic as well. Like, it for me, it sets up the right questions of, is she worried about her mother? Is her mother running a normal errand? Does Davina want to, you know, bounce and go out with her friends? And it also sets up for me a little bit of, was it, oh, I'm going to embarrass myself here live, but was it Vonnegut, the one with the bomb under the table? No, it wasn't.
The people will Google it. I don't ask me. I don't know.
It was
things.
Hitchcock. That's who it was.
There you go.
But like when the reader or the viewer sees a bomb under the table, but the people at the table doesn't know, that's kind of where it comes down to. But
that sounds very Hitchcockian.
Yeah, it's about creating like dramatic tension and whatnot. But for me, the made a mental note to pay for it later, that's like a moment of narrative tension for me, because I'm like, oh, is she gonna forget? And what problems is that gonna cause?
Oh, so see, that for me is a big nothing burger masquerading as a something sandwich.
Really?
Because here's why. Because she is clearly working the register at a shop that her mom owns or works in, right? And she's like keeping an eye on things, and she like has to pay for this bag of chips later. I mean, I like that, or that to me is kind of almost a little too mundane. Like here's the good thing about this sentence: it moves. It's very fluent. It's not awkward anywhere, but nothing is happening. This is a person. We're opening on someone just thinking about something that has to happen later. Nothing is going on, right? So I don't want this moment. I want the moment when her crush walks through the door, or like she has a mouthful of Jamaican banana chips when the guy she's been in love, or the girl she's been in love with since second grade, asks to buy a box of condoms or whatever it is, like asks for the, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, or something like her mom was never this late, like something to create that, like there's the something out of the normal.
Yeah. So yeah, I just like, this shows me that this writer knows how to write. I have no doubt that this is a talented writer, like clearly, but it's a mundane moment, and you want to show us the moment of change, not the moment of same.
Yeah.
So it's a very well written sentence. I love the specificity and also the way it shows us a lot, but it's not showing us the right a lot. I'm gonna move us right along so that we have a hope of ending on time and out of respect for everybody who's with us right now. Oh, okay. Well, we know with this many words on the page, it's either literary or sci-fi, and it's the first. I had comfortably sunk into the heated leather passenger seat of an electric car on a rainy autumn day when I realized why the Urban Center for Unexpected Deviations from the Habitual refused so categorically to showcase my work.
Similar to, I forget which other sentence, there's a lot of description here that I don't think.
Yep. Like comfortably does not matter at all.
Electric car.
I don't know that it matters. Certainly this doesn't matter. Rainy autumn day. No one cares.
Yeah. And
Who cares?
If that's relevant somehow, you can bring it in later sentences of like rain pelted the windshield as I stared out and waited for the guard to come over to me or whatever.
I find this very awkward. Why not I sank into? Like, what about that? Why are we here in the past perfect? It just, there's no reason. I mean, maybe it's because this is a narrator narrating the past before the past. So the primary, like the present is going to be narrated in simple past, and therefore anything further back from that has to be in the past perfect. But This is like a grammatical quagmire to, like, you're opening a can of worms here that just doesn't need to be opened. And like, why be so far away from the action, right? I sank into the heated leather passenger seat. Who cares? Could be driver, could be passenger, doesn't matter. I sank into the heated leather seat of an electric car. Again, I don't know why it matters that the person's in a car.
Well, or you could keep passenger seat and get rid of electric car, because that would imply a car.
Yeah, passenger seat. Yeah, but even still, like, why does it matter? Because again, what we have is someone sitting still and thinking about something, just like in the previous sentence. So even though there are definitely interesting components here, Urban Center for Unexpected Deviations from the Habitual, instantly intriguing. Like, for sure, I'm interested in this.
I'm getting shades of like Loki and the.
Oh, it's funny. I went to what was that movie with Emily Blunt and someone else, some white guy.
Heat. Was it that one?
Yeah. Oh no. The one where she's a dancer, is that her?
Oh no, I don't know. Okay, now we're getting back to my I barely know actors.
Yeah, I'm so bad at this, but I've seen this movie a bunch of times. It's called like, maybe the word, somebody help. Somebody, well, Jen says Penumbra's 24-hour library. That's true. It does give those vibes. But this is like a very specific movie that I'm thinking of. And it's like everybody's path is like in these books and they deviate based on their choices. I don't know. It's great. Someone will figure it out after the live is over. The Adjustment Bureau. Thank you, Bella. You are a treasure. Thank you very much. Bella got it. The Adjustment Bureau. So it gives me those vibes, and I like those vibes. Those are good vibes.
I think one simple addition would be to just add at the end too, especially if you're taking out some of the wordiness of the description, add at the end, showcase my work on the subject of, on the subject of interesting thing here or that. Yeah.
Give me this, because don't bury the lead, man. Who gives a shit about the weather or the car or like heated leather seats? I don't care. The Urban Center for Unexpected Deviations from the Habitual sounds amazing. Don't bury that. Bring that forward, tease it out.
Yeah.
Refuse to showcase my work on, whatever, or because of whatever. Character conflict. Bring it right to the fore. Even, literary fiction is not immune to the rules of good storytelling, though often literary writers think that they are. No bone to pick at all. Adult fantasy. Moving right along. The rain fell in thick, heavy blobs, and Seb let it soak through his collar and drip down the back of his neck. Ooh, they broke the rules. I didn't see this. We're not looking at any of this. First line only.
Okay, wait. Can you put it back and then like just put it because like one of those lines I would love if it said Seb let the sky do the crying for a change.
I know, but it's like we should not even be seeing this.
I know.
But it's like when they let the Russian skater skate and we all knew she was doping. We can't. It's not. I usually catch this. I can't believe it. This should have been disqualified, people. You got to follow the rules. So talking about the weather is never okay unless it's really for a purpose. And the idea of let the sky do the crying for a change is so good. And I'm so angry that it's not line 1.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I didn't want you to just yes, this is the line, dear person who submitted this. It is. Like,
but also you can't, if you don't have the opportunity to lean over your reader's shoulder and go, wait, the good part's almost here.
Yeah.
You know, and so why not, Seb was soaked through to his collar, or Seb was soaked through with heavy rain, or Seb didn't mind being soaked through with rain, let the sky do the crying for a change, you know, whatever it is. It could have been right out front, and instead we're getting rain and thick heavy blobs, but like rain doesn't blob implies viscosity, so I take issue with that.
Well, I was actually going to say, I wonder if it's magical rain. That was my first thought too, is I'm like, blob is a weird descriptor for rain, so is it like
but even then, like, that's a logistics question, and now we're thinking about the viscosity of rain in this world, which is the wrong thing to think about. I'm so this person I don't think would win our favorite sentence of the day anyway, but I just want everybody to know, DQ'd from winning the book because it's more than one sentence, and that is a hard and fast rule. But you had it there, and you missed it to fix it.
Well, okay. And this goes back to what I was saying of like, you know, your third or fourth thought is oftentimes the magic. Right.
So the Buddhists say first thought, best thought, but maybe it's not exactly that. Maybe they're a little bit wrong. For first line enlightenment, we might need to dig a little bit deeper. I agree. Okay, this is our last line, but everybody stick around because we're going to pick a favorite. The 80s were known as the decade of greed, and Charlemagne Jones, nicknamed Charlie, is a dysfunctional ingenue now in a third world country flying high above the bush of West Africa.
This sounds like a news clipping.
I know. It's why does this matter? Why is this important? Charlemagne Jones. What about Charlemagne Charlie Jones? And what does it mean to be a dysfunctional ingenue? An ingenue of what?
Or even if you want to, like, if that was somehow really important in some way, or reworked to be, like, Charlemagne Charlie Jones was really proud of his moniker of dysfunctional ingenue, like,
right, or like something. I don't know. I mean, there's so much happening. We go from the 80s to a specific person, to their specific nickname, to their dysfunctional specific tag, to now, and then where they are. It's very confusing. This isn't everything all at once. This needs to be unpicked like a knot of yarn. It is very much a lot. We need very much less.
It's also a really good example to me of, like, known as the decade of greed. I want to be shown that. I want to, like, I don't know who this Charlie is, but, like, is he going to, you know, take advantage of these people?
Wait, is he in a private jet?
Yeah. Like, is he,
right?
Show me his decadence and greed and dysfunction. Yeah,
otherwise, why does it matter? It doesn't matter until it matters. We know that. All right, I'm coming back, and then we're going to talk about our fave. Okay. I'm back. I am back.
Hello.
Hello. Prim was here. She was covering me in cat hair. Primmy, come on, say hi to everybody. Now she's going to be belligerent. She's going to be dirty looks. All right. We got to pick a favorite. I know my favorite. Actually, you know what? I have two favorites.
Okay.
What's your favorite?
It's the wanted woman to eat flesh line.
Agreed. But then we also have the line about dislocating that kid's elbow.
That's true. For me, and again, this could just be like my stylistic preference. You know me, I love those snappy first lines that you just want to, like, let stand on their own and just be a whole paragraph.
Okay, you are the guest host, and so you choose the favorite, and that is your prerogative. So I will get in touch with you, author of the line about eating flesh. Could be very salacious. We don't even know.
But I want to. Again, I want to. I want to read the blurb.
I want to know so bad. Yes, I will also say, like, very close honorable mention on that later I told the Mumbai police. It was very good. For me, I was a real toss up for me between those two.
And I will say there were a lot of strong lines overall. Like,
Yes.
I was very nervous coming into this. I was like, what if they're awful? Like,
no, I'm not here to embarrass everybody. Like, I will say, I DQ lines that are more than one sentence, which obviously I failed at, and I DQ lines that are just so clearly gibberish that like we can't use them as a teaching moment. So there has to be something worth learning from every line I choose. And again, I don't like read the lines really carefully before I put these together because the gut reaction is a big part of what's so great about First Line Frenzy. But I am really careful about I'm not here, like we're here to learn, not to shame anybody. And that's why it's anonymous, right? That's why everything's anonymous. So if you're watching and you're nervous about submitting a line, it comes from a place of kindness. Honestly, I started this about 6 or 7 years ago. Time, just not friends. As a way to share information with, I can only work with so many clients in a year. It's without getting burnt out. And I wanted a way to share information that was interactive and relevant and interesting for me. Like I was making infographics for a while, but then I was like, wow, I am so bored. I'm like spending hours of my life finding the perfect hex code. Like I just can't do that anymore. And so this has just been my vehicle for sort of opening the doorway to talk about editing and talk about writing and things like that with like from crowdsourced material, which is always so great. And it's been amazing. So, if you're here because of Elise, I hope you'll stay. Come for the author, stay for the grammar party. So
there you go.
For forever fun train. Thank you so much for doing this. I can't believe it took us this long to do it together. Like I feel like a total dummy.
I do have to say I was really tempted to submit my first line of the fourth Married to Magic book that I'm working on, just to see.
You can.
No.
You see everybody's reaction to it. I won't really know. I have this big Google Doc, right? Like when people fill out my form, it populates a Google Doc. I don't look at the email addresses unless sometimes I scan to look for multiples because you can only enter one time.
Right.
One per person. Then once your line is featured, you can put in another line. But some people put in like 10 at one time. And I'm like, you are just taking too much free cake. The cake is free. You don't get to take that much of it at a time, So
everyone gets a slice. Gotta let everyone get a slice first.
My daughter, my 3-year-old, has this book from the library called Oh, Look, a Cake. And it's about this lemur. No, a lemur and a sloth who find a cake, like just a cake, and they're trying to think about who to invite to eat the cake. And they go through all of their animal friends and they dismiss them all for various reasons. Like the elephant's going to eat the whole thing. We can't invite the ants because we have to like slice it into so many pieces. And so finally, obviously, they just eat the whole thing themselves. And then the tiger comes. They decided not to eat the tiger because the tiger would eat the cake and then eat them. And the tiger's like, where's the birthday cake I made for myself? And they were like, oh, we ate it. And so the tiger, it's like a close-up of the tiger face. And it's like, I can still get it back. And the last page is just like the tiger walking away from the empty cake plate with no one around. And it's so, I was like, this book, which is like, it looks like a delicious confection of a book. Like there's a giant cake on the front and it's cartoony and it's like, oh, look, a cake. And oh, look, double homicide. It is. But I get it.
Like children's stories, like when you break them down, really could be summarized with, oh, look, a double homicide.
I gotta say, it's really funny, and my daughter loves it. So, like, before we get to the last page, I look at her and I go, "What's gonna happen?" And she goes, "The tiger gonna eat them." And I'm like, "Yeah," and she thinks it's hilarious. But I have to say, I sympathize with the tiger because I put out this gorgeous dessert spread every day, and then like, don't try to just like, don't be Tom Hanks in You've Got Mail taking all the caviar. You take what's allotted to you.
I am totally tangenting here for a second, but it just made me think of it. I remember when I first turned like 18, it was on my own and like making my own money and working, and I had that feeling of like, I'm an adult now. I can make adult decisions.
Adult so hard.
And the adult decision that I really wanted to make was I realized that I could go to the store and buy a cake and I could eat a cake for dinner and no one could stop me. And I did that and I regretted it terribly.
So much regret. This is me when I'm like, I'm an adult. I can stay up and read as late as I want. And then the next day I'm like, when are you going to learn? You're such an idiot. But I will say buying candy whenever you feel like it and reading anything you desire whenever you desire is probably the best part of being a grown up.
Yeah.
So do you want to just quickly tell me what you're reading now?
I'm not reading right now.
Just use?
I know.
Why? Why not?
Because I am so deep in drafting right now that when I'm in like a really deep drafting mode, I don't like to read too much. And I'm between all my nonfiction. So the next, because I'll read nonfiction when I am drafting, as you know. And I want to read The Body Keeps the Score. I've heard a lot of really good things about that
Let me
book.
know. I've also heard great things about it, but I'm not a huge nonfiction reader. I'm listening to The Power of Myth right now. I'm going to be writing about it in my newsletter that goes out tomorrow. Sign up for my newsletter. And so that's Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers in conversation. PBS aired this 6-part series in 1988 with them in conversation about myth and stories and like just the universality of myth. And that's my catnip. So I've been listening to that. But I also, I just finished Lessons in Chemistry, which is a new one from Bonnie Garmis, just came out at the beginning of April. And like, I cannot stop thinking about this book. It's so good. It's about it's about a chemist in the 1960s, a female chemist in the 1960s, who obviously confronts a ton of misogyny and patriarchal bullshit, but it's her story and it's told so well. It's great if you loved Where'd You Go, Bernadette. It's great if you loved Una Out of Order. It's great if you loved John Irving and Charlotte McConaughey. Like, it's such a good book, and I'm about to buy like 10 copies to gift them for like Mother's Day, Father's Day, end of year teacher gifts. Like, everyone I know is getting a copy. I'm going to be Oprah. Like, you get a Lessons in Chemistry. You get a Lessons in Chemistry. But it has a little bit of like a nonfiction feel because it's historical, and it also has to do with chemistry. And so if you're looking for a novel, I recommend slotting that in, because it's also contemporary. It's historical, but like it's not fantasy is what I mean. So
that's something I should try, of like reading not just nonfiction, but like contemporary and other things outside of the fantasy genre when I'm in this mode, when my brain is just like, right.
The non-Madge books.
Yes.
You know, I'm here for the recommendations.
And they're always so good from you.
Thanks. I also, for Mother's Day, I'm receiving a little free library, which I'm going to be putting in front of my house. And so I'm like, I keep rewriting my, like, I'm going to leave a little note in, you know, like for my readers. And I'm now like picking all the books I'm going to put in my library. You know, I'm so excited to get it. I'm like flossing with joy. I'm going to be posting a lot about it because I'm going to decorate it myself. And so
you have some fabulous authors as contact. So you could just be like, hey, I have a little free library now. Do you want to send me a couple books to stock it?
Well, I am going to put, so the problem with the books that I have from you is that most of them are signed, and I don't want people to take my signed books.
I'll send you a signed book.
Okay. Well, okay, maybe we can put an signed book. But I'm going to put Loom in there. Well, when you do the new cover releases, I will put those in there too.
Ooh.
That would be, maybe the people, we get a lot of foot traffic on our street. So I think people deserve to know. I think I have a hard copy of the Trial of Sorcerers, don't I? Or no, Vortex Visions. That's what I have. I have the first one.
Well, you just let me know whatever books you need, and I'll send them over.
Okay. Maybe I'll do like an author
editor perks.
It's gonna be like the most intensely like monitored little free library on the planet. Like I just, you know me, I'm gonna like watch it with my like birding binoculars down the driveway and be like,
you know what'd be so funny is if you like made, I don't know how you would do this, but like a social media account for it where people could like leave anonymous reviews of the books that they get from your free library.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I plan to put a little cup with note cards and pens and invite people to leave a note for the next person to take the book.
There you go. I like that.
Or like a note for me, a note for the librarian, you know, the librarian. My dream. That'd be my superhero name. For a long time I wanted to be the professor, but then I was like, no, I think the librarian is the superpower I need.
I mean, I would say definitely a superpower of that is being always able to find something, because that is a skill that every librarian I've ever known has had.
Yeah, they're so good. And they're like, oh, my daughter, I keep talking about my daughter today. I don't know why. She is terrified of dogs. Woke up one morning with a fear of dogs. And like, I love dogs. And this happened to my son too. I think it's somehow genetic. Just literally woke up out of the blue one morning with a fear of dogs. And so I went to the library and I was like, hey, do you have any books about like kids who are afraid of dogs? Boom, instant. And we've been like reading them to her and showing her how the kids get over their fears and things like that. But they were just like immediately there.
And immediately there. Every librarian I've ever known. Like, you could go to them with the most obscure thing of like, I want to read a book on duck husbandry. And they're like, it's in my head because I saw a meme about it. But like,
is that what it's called? Is raising ducks called duck husbandry?
Yeah, like if you're raising ducks and whatnot, apparently that's the term for it. The reason, the context it came up in is there's a book called Ducks and How to Make Them Pay, and I've had a problem with ducks in my backyard recently and whatnot.
Ducks and how to make them pay.
But it's, you know, pay money because of duck husbandry. Like you make money off of them.
What a terrible title. So it's not ducks and how to seek revenge on the ducks. It's ducks and how to make money from the ducks.
Yes.
People, you need editors. I don't know what to tell you. That should not have passed muster. That there's no way.
To be fair, I think the book was published back in the 1800s. So I mean, different time, different context, but still.
I think the idiom was still pretty active at that time, but we can't know for sure. That's really funny.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. Ducks and how to make them pay. So you have a duck problem, huh? We
Yeah.
have a turkey problem.
Well,
we have a turkey issue.
So it's like
Turkeys are aggressive motherfuckers, and they attacked my kid last year.
A problem because I love the ducks, and we have ponds in our community, and I love that they hang out in the ponds because they eat the algae and they have a nice little home and they're adorable, but they poo a lot, and we have a pool, as many do in Florida, and when they're in the pool swimming around the pool, all I can think of is them pooing all day in the pool, and then I'm like, I don't want to get in that at all. So yeah.
So haven't you ever been swimming in a lake? Or the
Oh,
ocean?
yeah, for
those
sure.
are giant toilets. I don't know if you are aware of that.
And I understand that, but at least my personal pool, it's
you
also
want that
a small
to be
pool. Like
feces free. Look, I understand. No judgment here. We have a gaggle of wild turkeys. It's the state bird of Massachusetts. They are a scourge on the environment. They're awful. They are so aggressive and evil, and it's terrible. Like once their little babies hatch, they go apeshit. They attack joggers. They'll attack your car. Gabe was scootering, just innocently scootering like any young boy might, and this bird like comes out of flipping nowhere and attacks him last year. And at first Dan and I were kind of laughing because it was funny, and then all of a sudden it was like very not funny because this bird was like deterred. And then of course all of her little poults is the term apparently, which I also learned from a children's book. All her little poults followed her like across the road, so he got very close to the babies, and so she attacked. But she was chasing him down the street. She was like pound of flesh or nothing. And my husband threw a scooter at her. There was another scooter laying around, I think.
I would love to talk with a bird expert on what is the meanest bird, because I know peacocks can also be quite nasty. And Canadian geese, I've heard you don't mess with them.
I love Canadian geese. I grew up on a 10-acre property. Where is this conversation going? I grew up on a 10-acre property with a pond on the property. And there were 2 Canadian geese, which I named Crabtree and Evelyn after my favorite soap. And even though, and they were lovely. And they got used to me. And I would sit out by the lake and like gaze, you know, melancholically and probably sing just to myself out by the pond. And they would sit on either side of me. And when they had babies, they let them sit with me too. It was a very...
You went quiet. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Oh, now you're back.
Oh, okay. I went quiet because I got a phone call. The audacity.
How dare they?
Okay. Sorry, I was getting a phone call. The audacity of anyone to call me at this precious time. But it is a good reminder that it is 12:15. And so we should bid you adieu and let everybody move on with their lives.
Stop talking about ducks and geese and however...
Look, you never know what will be revealed in these wonderful, witty conversations. So thank you again for coming. Thank you, everybody,
for having
tuned in. Thank you if you're watching this on the rewatch. Thank you so much for tuning in. Buy all the books. You know, buy all the books. There's a lot of the books to buy. Buy that book. Buy that book. Buy all the books. Especially, I love that one. You can send me that one. Send me that one for the library. I love that cover.
Sure.
So, like, I should just buy my own books, like, not be such a creep. I hope everyone will come back. My next guest author is going to be Merritt Weisenberg, who wrote This Golden State, which is a YA contemporary that just came out that's absolutely incredible. And then later in May, I'm on First Line Frenzy Live over on YouTube with Reedsy. So that'll be sort of the international version. We always get a lot of international traffic, and it's fun to watch me mispronounce all the words that come from other places. So join us for that. Thank you. And I will see everybody really soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.